Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Pramod Kathuria, who is the founder and CEO of Easiloan, which is a fintech platform that provides fast and easy home loans. Hi, Pramod. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Priya. Look forward to.
To start the discussion and to set the context, Pramod, can you please take us through your early career, early life before entrepreneurship? Where did you study? Which all places did you work? And how did you arrive at entrepreneurship? Like, what made you to think about starting something of your own and choose this path of uncertainty?
Sure, Priya. I'm not a usual suspect when it comes to a typical entrepreneur persona, right? I have about 20 years of experience before I really started Easy Loan, and there is a journey. I hail from north of India, and which is where I have completed my education in science and later completed my management studies. And from Pune and I am Ahmedabad both. And I started my career with banking. So my foundation has been in the banking, wherein I have worked with housing finance, industry, with one of the leading private sector bank, and got a sort of a very embedded experience as to how the housing finance and the home loan thing sort of works. Later on, I dabbled into real estate for almost 15 years. I was working with the leaders in real estate industry, both on the residential as well as the commercial side. My last assignment was with Aero City, Hyderabad, where I was looking after all the functions. From a family background perspective, everybody has been from a salary background. So my mom was a teacher from a state government. She retired from there. My father worked in the central government, Ministry of Defense, and my sibling also is, from like I said, a professional background, working with banks and financial institutions and so on and so forth. Uh, Including my wife, who's coming from a banking background. So, like I said, I'm not like a usual suspect who thinking of starting a business from early on. I think one has to give the credit to the ecosystem today in India. And over the last 15, 16 years, what we've seen is how remarkably the startups have go about, innovating, creating business models, and being very, very successful. That has also allowed a lot of professionals, experienced professionals, to start thinking out of box and look at real world problem in a different way. Uh,
Mm,
I been thinking of also starting something on my own for 1 or 2 years before I actually started Easy Loan and worked on various business models, thoughts. And these thoughts came, spent with you. You know, you spend some time with them, you're talking with them, discussing with them, and they go. But when it came to the period around COVID, I came back to Mumbai and we were all locked out, right, completely in the lockdown. And then that is the time that I really pursued this business model very, very seriously, wherein we went about talking to investors, we went about sharpening the business model, and this thought stayed, and which is when we started Easy Loan. I fundamentally wanted to use my knowledge on the banking side, real estate side, and bring about tech as an enablement to a customer problem, a real world customer problem, something that is really felt. And that's how we picked up mortgage. Because if you really see the kind of innovation that we've seen in the fintech space, in the financial product space, and there's been like a great revolution, I would say, with the way discovery is done, consumption is done, barring mortgage, which remains because it's secure lending. It's more complex. There is more governance around it, compliances around it, and which is where it becomes more complex. And this is a problem which has stayed with me.
mm,
Topped up with a real, I had experience wherein I was trying to sell a property during COVID in Hyderabad, and first buyer came in, he could not get the home loan because obviously at that time it was complete lockdown, and the second buyer took almost 7 months to complete the transaction because it was partial lockdown and so on and so forth. So that also resonated, and I think I keep saying it, it took more than one reason for me to start Easyloan, and which is what we've been doing for the last 3.5 years.
Okay. Now, before we start talking about Easyloan, as an industry veteran, you have experience into real estate and banking. You understand how the home loan process, how the workflow works. Can you tell what are the underlying problems that you see? Because the way I see it, the banks are offering very low interest rate. Probably home loans have the lowest interest rate in the market, and then the timing is not that crucial because the home buying itself, there are other things, other formalities in place. So by the time the formalities are done, the loan is also approved and disbursed. So what is the underlying problem that you are trying to solve?
So, Priya, home buying in itself is a very emotional, high value transaction. It's probably the most time consuming, requires multiple stakeholders alignment, right? You want your family decision to be done when you're buying a home. So, it's very involving, highly emotional, and typically very exciting product purchase. When it comes to home loan, it is seen as a product wherein you do not want to increase your anxiety. You want to land up with the best offer possible given your personality, given your persona, given your profile, and in which case you would ideally like to have a very transparent information flowing to you, a comprehensive set of transparent information coming to you. Unfortunately, since the it's a secured lending and there is an underlying asset, most of the bank processes are also very, very complex. They require multiple checks point on the income, address, KYC, then property, and there's a legal and technical layer of the property, and which is when a bank is comfortable to give a final go ahead, right? We're trying to solve all this. When I say, it becomes like a contingent product. You need to have a home loan if you want to complete your home buying. In most cases, right? Unless until you have self funds and you have an option to self fund it or take a bank loan. Most of the people who are going for home loan have to take a home loan to complete their home buying, right? And so, which is what we try to solve. We try to bring in a very diverse set of lenders on our platform: public sector, private sector, housing finance company, all of them there. We bring information very, very transparently on a single platform. So the customers are empowered. In a digital economy, the best thing that customer gets is empowerment, their ability to decide after comparing and sort of selecting the right option for them. So a customer can put in their requirement. Our platform gives offers from each of the lenders who are keen on these kind of profiles, and a customer is empowered to select what is good for them. So what it really translates into a very comprehensive sharing of information, power with the customer to pick up the right offer, what is best for them, and also to not have any rejection, because since a customer is already put in the requirement, bank is already, so our engine basically matches the bank guidelines or a bank preference on a certain customer based on certain vitals like FOIR, ROI, and so on and so forth. Similarly, we also match a bank with a preference on the lender side, and hence the first time right ratio is very, very good.
Mm. So tell us more about this matchmaking. I think AI is involved in this whole process. I was reading about it on your website. So tell us more about it.
Great. So we have a decision tree, which is essentially the machine learning tool. And fundamentally, what we do is we've got on one side the buy side, and the other side is the sell side, right? So you have customers which we acquire from various channels, B2B and B2C. At this point in time, we are more focused on the B2B channel, which is the real estate brokers, real estate developers, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of science there. According to me, we kind of we do fantastic learning. We keep deploying it and keep evolving that acquisition piece. On the other side, we have the lenders, right, which is the supply side. And like I said, everybody is slightly diverse in nature. A public sector bank, within public sector banks, that banks are at various degree of tech enablement, at their requirement, their focus areas, and so on and so forth. And then you have private sector and housing finance companies. So we've got all of it together. We've tied up with them. Now we have also understood their guidelines, how at what level do they want to sort of fund our customer, what kind of profile are they comfortable with, and so on and so forth. And then we both build all this together on a decision tree, and which is where we are able to recommend offers which are fine tuned to the persona of a customer or the requirement of a customer. And this entire matchmaking engine is built on AI logic, and it keeps kind of developing basis the data and the past data, and also is able to give information coming from the bank as well as the customer to each other.
Got it. Speaking of information, I think data privacy and security is a big concern in India, and that too in real estate, it's a even bigger concern because we have seen brokers selling data to other brokers and developers, and the same happens in the fintech context as well. So, small NBFCs, they sell data, and sometimes when employees leave one company and join another company, they take the data with them. So what measures have you taken to address those points?
So at a macro level, yes, data security is a very, very critical area, right? And as we are developing as an economy, particularly on the digital side, there are more and more checkpoints coming from the regulator as well as the organization are sort of building towards it, right? DPDP Act or whatever is one instance, but the framework has been kind of getting built, and which is, I think, is the right way, because as you do more business, you will have more regulation. Earlier, these scenarios were not there, say 20 years back. Now these scenarios are real, and hence you need to have acts which are, or a framework which is sort of helping to deliver the optimum output out of this, right? That said, so there are things that we do externally, and there are things that you need to do internally in the organization. So on the external side, like I said, we follow the framework which is by the banks, framework which is by the government, RBI, and so on and so forth, so that we flow the information, basis consent, uh, based in the form and fashion which it is sort of supposed to move, encrypted. Information is also taken only to the extent it is allowed to be taken, right? So that is one part on the external side. On the internal side, which is when you're saying employee moving, loss of data, leak of data, and so on and so forth. So we have developed our tech in house. We have got ISO certification on the processes, and we got it like at the very initial stage of developing our tech. So we've always been ISO certified throughout our existence, and we also make sure that there is a framework, SOPs in place which allow data only to the user to the extent that one has to use it, and then obviously there are checkpoints, there are channels which kind of break the circuit for one person to not go beyond a certain use of data. And that said, data fundamentally in India is going through this change and maturity, wherein understanding of data, even as a customer, sometimes is not aware of as to what level of data one has to share at what point in time. And I've seen customers sharing more data than required. And
Yes.
then typically there is a collective responsibility between the marketplace like us, customer, the channels that we are sourcing from, and also the banks at the end of the day, because all of it at one level or the other get exposed to the data. We fundamentally make sure, like I said, the transit of data, the flow of data is through a very, very controlled environment, and in the form and fashion it is prescribed by the bank or the regulator.
Got it. Uh, you spoke about the point that consumers sometimes share data which are not required, which was not requested initially, but they go ahead share that. So that has become a problem, and in fact, a lot of fintechs The fintech apps primarily they do this. They read through the SMSs present in the device, and they uh, take the consent in a way that the user, they think that they are saying okay, okay to the different steps, but by mistake they have given consent to read a lot of data which is not supposed to be read by a app. And so those sort of things. So can you tell us about what kind of data points that you collect from the user, and how do you collect from the user so that you can build a profile of the customer, and so that banks can evaluate and approve them?
So we are, like I said, we are marketplace for home loans. So we take information mostly on the requirement, what is the customer looking for, and this information is filled by the customer themselves. So fundamentally, it comes with a very organized channel. Most of it, it is a layer of consent to begin with. So a customer comes in, registers themselves, gives a consent to whether to refer to a soft pull on the bureau score or share the requirement ahead with the bank. So all those things are done, like I say, in an extremely secured environment with consent and as per the process prescribed by the bank. The information that we typically seek from the customer to be able to meaningfully give a good solution to their problem is the requirement. So whether you're looking for a loan, what is the LTV you're looking for, what is the requirement of the loan. We look at whether you are from a salaried class or a non-salaried class and the segment. Essentially, we also look at the address of the property and so on and so forth. So those basic details are required for us to make an initial mobilization of offer from the lender. That said, at a subsequent stage, when it comes to disbursal, which is towards the fag end, which is where the disbursement of loan happens, we coordinate with the customer. So all the stakeholders we coordinate with, wherein a customer comes in, completes their KYC with the bank, hands over the secured document, and so on and so forth with the bank. So, and that is something that we facilitate between the bank and the customer, and we are more like a coordinator in that. Our role is more like a coordinator for that step. So fundamentally, our access is largely around the requirement, facilitating the digital or documents, whether it is the POIs, which is proof of incomes or proof of address, and share it with the bank to be able to give a meaningful offer or a sanction.
Okay. And every loan, the whole journey of loan is a pretty long journey. I think home loans span over 20, 30 years. Curious to know at which point do you exit from that overall journey? Because customers discover the home loan through your platform, then they apply and submit documents, then get approved, maybe disbursal happens. But at some point you would be, leaving the whole journey, and maybe, the banks would be taking over. So what is that point when you leave the whole journey?
Great question. So fintech typically is a combination of finance and technology, right? And anybody who's kind of bringing it together, and a new age company can be called as a fintech, so to say. So there are fintechs when it comes to products like loans, who are more on the capital side, which is the finance side of it, right? And they're innovating more on the capital. They have their own book. They understand the customer, do the KYC of the customer, and give the loan and do the collection piece completely end to end. And then you have companies who are bringing more of the tech play, which is enabling, innovating the entire process of onboarding, process of customer experience, how you bring the information fast, early, comprehensively, and more transparently. We identify ourselves more as a tech play when it comes to the fintech, and which is where we play a front end role to a lender. So if there is 35, 40 lenders who are tied up with us and work closely with us, we play a front end role. The front end role means that we enable a digital onboarding of a customer. We enable discovery of a customer, which means that we will be able to find a customer for the bank, and so on and so forth. So where do we drop off? We by design play a very critical, intensive, embedded role in the first part of it. Like I said, we are the front end. Thereafter, RBI fundamentally wants the bank to have know their customer directly, which is the KYC is done by the bank, and the collection process is run by the lender, right? So which is where our role becomes very limited. We ensure that the first part is, which is from discovery to dispersal, we are the partner throughout the journey, and we coordinate this seamlessly end to end.
Got it. And what if the person defaults by any chance? Do you get involved?
No, we don't. Like I said, the KYC, the bank guidelines, the risk of lies with the lender. The capital risk is with the lender, and hence, even the default would lie with the lender. We are the front end. We are the facilitator of discovery to fulfillment, and that's the role we play.
Got it. When I was researching, I got introduced to a concept called loan approval anxiety. So, interestingly, I also faced it at some point when I was waiting for my education loan to get approved. It took around 2 months to get approved. I don't know why, but a lot of people have this anxiety that whether they have already done advancing and they're waiting for the bank to clear the loan, but for some reason or the other it may get cancelled or delayed. Both cases they'll suffer the home, they'll lose the home. How are you solving for that problem? Are you employing any predictive analytics or any real-time status updates to reassure the borrowers during the waiting period, or are you giving a date by which the loan will get approved or something like that?
So that is fundamentally what we do, right? We are our ability to have a comprehensive set on the lender, which means that people who are seeker outside are very defined, limited set. If I have only two lenders to work with, right? I have five lenders to work with. There's every likelihood that a customer would come to us and would probably not get satisfied with this this exhaustive list, and they may look out and may look for a better option outside, right? And which is why we wanted to have an exhaustive set of lenders here, covering the length and breadth, the nature of lender, like I said, private, public, housing finance company, and each of this segment has a certain specialization. Like a public sector bank would look at a customer in a slightly different way, maybe more rigid at times. A private sector bank would have a higher experience, typically a better experience, more instant, more tech enabled, and so on and so forth. But they will have also certain limitation on the kind of sectors that they want to fund. And housing finance company will probably be most innovative, but may have a ROI which is slightly higher, and so on and so forth. So how uh, and that's a great duty we do to the customer, right? We give the entire empowerment to the customer so that customer feels not cheated, not void of any information. The entire information is transparently shared with them, whether it is the processing fee, what is the
Mhm.
offer from 1 to 35, all the banks, and they are in the best place. In fact, we have created tools where you can gamify, you can change, whether you want a tenure from 20 years to 25 years to 30 years, and how, and corresponding to that change in your requirement, you will have a different offers getting populated. So
Mhm.
today, if I go to Easyloan and I say, okay, I'm looking for 20 years, and this is the LTV, this is the property value, this is the income, and there'll be certain offers which get populated. But the moment I change anything there in my requirement set, right? I change my age, I change the income, I change the requirement, tenure, and so on and so forth. Like I said, the offers will get populated reflecting the new requirement, and which is what we do, and remove the anxiety. I would like to actually put the empowerment part of it as a word, because at times customer feel powerless. You're going to one bank after the other, you are highly dependent on the channel. When the channel tells you that there will be certain charges, no, you will not get it, will you get it, and so on and so forth, whether it is a false promise, or it is a sort of a wrong notion which is created. I think we are able to completely bring that information in a transparent way instantly to the customer, and comprehensively. So it's not limited to a certain segment, right? We cater to all segment, we cater to diverse set of asset classes, and we cater to a very exhaustive set of lenders.
Got it. Here is my last and final question, and then we'll close. So tell us, of all these years of being an entrepreneur, what have you understood about entrepreneurship, and what would you suggest to other people who are listening to you, and they're sort of thinking about starting their own venture, but they don't know what does entrepreneurship look like. Sometimes they have a rosy picture of entrepreneurs, and they drive luxury cars and they make a lot of money, but it's not true in all the cases. So can you give a realistic picture of how does entrepreneurship look like?
So entrepreneurship is far from rosy. Rosy is not the word that you kind of associate with entrepreneurship. I think it is highly satisfying. It is highly involving, and I would say immersive. So it is something that once you have gotten into this direction, and then you want to create an organization which is solving a real problem. Like I keep saying, because at times people get carried away with a little bit of fancy idea, and fundamentally think that uh, innovation is all about doing something significantly different, right? Versus, I would like to bring it to innovation is about improving how a problem is getting addressed today or not getting addressed and finding solutions to it. Uh, Entrepreneurship will have stages. It will have stages wherein you may have to uh, have a lot of, I would say, uh, perseverance. You will have to stay around, stick around. You should be willing to give away, your fixed income expectation at times, because it may not be giving you a very static income stream. You should be able to work long hours, odd hours, and so on and so forth. But like I said, it's a mixed bag. So at one end, you will have the satisfaction of creating something on your own, the satisfaction of building a large team which is growing, the hustle and the excitement, which typically, I mean, that if you're seeking, you have to have that level of passion and seeking excitement, because if you're not, then probably this is the wrong fit. It's a wrong segment to be in. So all this is kind of makes you, and then you learn a lot. You learn every day because you meet diverse set of people. You play diverse set of roles, right? So today I may be playing four roles, put under one founder or a CEO kind of title, but fundamentally you're playing at least four roles and heading four functions. So these are multitasking is something that you'll have to be okay with, and these are the things that you should love and care about. What you probably would also have is a funding kind of opportunities to learn. You may have a little bit of slowdown, so you may have to right shape your organization. You should be willing to cut cost. You should be willing to optimize the team and so on and so forth. So it cannot be only north ways that we are only hiring and only growing. There will be times, and one has to brace those times wherein at times the liquidity may become a concern. You're optimizing the team may become the right focus. You should be okay to pivot from one product to the other. So also, according to me, you should not hold your first product as the final product. You should be okay with changing the product, but at the end of the day, you're serving a certain community, and the community seeks it in a slightly different way. You should be able to adapt to that. Same is the case with channels. We often go with a thought process, and a fixed thought process, the B2B will work, right? Or B2C will work. Your ability and your agility to change between these channels, to grow into new geographies, to grow into new products, no new arrangements, types, merger, all that kind of comes as a toolkit. So if you are always in that form wherein you're growing, building, changing, that is something that entrepreneurship really sums it.
Understood. I think that's a really interesting definition, and I also do agree with it. Entrepreneurs have to be agile and have to be very open to embrace new ideas and constantly keep changing, because technology is changing, world is changing, and so do entrepreneurs need to. On this point, we will close the session. Thanks for joining us, Pramod. I would say it was a great pleasure to have you on our platform, and our best wishes for Easyloan.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you, Priya. Thank you for the session.
Thank you, Pramod.